What's up, y'all? It's Ange with Ange Inspires. It's a Thursday, and this is our another episode of Bestie Book Club. So, of course, I got my bestie Takia with me. And as you know, we're reading the book Becoming Myself by Stasi Eldredge.
Sister
Um,
Stacy.
we have reached the halfway mark. Well, we're over the hump,
We
and
are.
we're in chapter 8 of the book, which is called The Company of Women. Therefore, we could not have this conversation without the company of women. So we decided to invite some of our girls to join this conversation with us, and we want to introduce you to them. So if I could have both of you just tell us your name, and both of you tell us what's your favorite thing to do with your girls.
Mm.
Ooh.
Am I gonna go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I'm Ash. My favorite thing to do with the girls, I don't know. Like I've been like kind of in my bartending bag lately, so I like to make drinks.
Oh, okay.
Sit around and watch movies.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Hey, my name is Tabitha. My favorite thing to do with my girls is probably just catch up. Just exchange what troubles we're going through, what blessings we've been given.
Yes.
Just a nice little vibe session. That's probably my favorite thing, especially in quarantine. So
Yes. I agree.
The gratitude be on another level, like for real, for real. What about you, Takia? What's your favorite girls thing to do?
Okay, so I chose eating. So love to eat, but I do like what did I say earlier? The gathering that kind of like a catch up, but eat with food involved, pretty much. Um, yeah.
For me, I think my favorite thing to do is travel with my girls. Like even if it's just going to the store. Like anytime I get to drive, that's my happy place. So then when I get to have one of my girls in the car with me and we get to share that, it's like when you're in the car, you get to talk more. Like we always end up having these
Yeah.
conversations that just end up being so good, and then obviously going to a place maybe we never been before, making new experiences. That's I think really like one of my favorite things to do. Which overall is like making memories, which I think all of us kind of it's making memories, sharing experiences. I think is my favorite thing. So let's go through some of what Sister Stacy was talking about in this chapter. So basically, the way she set up this chapter was she talks about the lessons that she's learned over her years in having experiences with friendships with women. So she kind of, I like to call them her rules of friendship with women. And so the first one that she talks about is hold your friends loosely, but hold them. And what she's saying here is like basically you cannot rely on your friends satisfying every need that you have. You can't. Like it's impossible for one woman in this situation, one woman to be able to be your friend and fill all the gaps that you have in your life. They just can't. Only Jesus is the one who can fill all the gaps that you have. So you have to be able to, keep your hands open, be able to let them go if you need to, but also be able to hold them close, when you need that comfort. So um, yeah, Takia, did you have anything from this chapter you wanted to comment?
Yeah, kind of. I guess like what I took away from it was just the fact of I think this was the one where she was saying it's okay to let go because if you're already having those conversations with God, He's allowing the space to be filled, and if that person or persons are no longer to fill that spot for you in your life through Him, He's gonna remove them, if that makes sense. um, so I guess that's kind of like one of the things that I took away from it. And then like the note that we put, or that you put, it was just where we need to be surrounded by people who want to see who we need to come. So that kind of just goes back to my point of, I feel like just if you, within those conversations that you do have with God, He will allow the people to kind of, I don't want to sound rude, but I guess drift
Come
away.
and go.
Yeah, like just go away, drift away. Without you even realizing it if you're still having those conversations, and focused on Him.
Yeah. Have y'all had any experiences where somebody has kind of held you too closely or too tightly as a friend?
I feel like maybe not necessarily held me too closely as a friend, but maybe that dependency, like expecting me to fill those gaps more. So maybe even if it's just like they're going through, a rough patch, they need that extra dependence on somebody, they need that extra love. I feel like me and my friends have pretty good boundaries. So I don't feel like any of my friends I felt at a time was like I can't be all of that for you and still be what I need to be for me. So
that's good.
Yeah. I've definitely been held too closely as a friend. It's uncomfortable. I know it's like that saying, it's like someone's in your life for what is it, like a reason, a season, or a lesson or something like that. And I think kind of being sensitive to the season allows you to kind of have discernment on how to really, how closely to hold someone or when it's time to let that person go. I think you're right. I think oftentimes we assume that our friends are like all purpose friends, which we all would like to be. But in the reality of things, with our adult lives and just life in general, you do have to find that balance, especially as adults, especially when you've known your friends for a long time and you've grown from childhood. That relationship is totally different being an adult. People have children, people have responsibilities, so you have to really change with the times, and being held too closely because you're not sensitive to that, it can do a lot of damage if you're not careful.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so true. And I think that's just the importance of keeping God close, like keeping God, like I think, and she probably talks about this later, I'm probably about to jump a whole lot of stuff, but I think that it's so important for us to have that relationship with God, to like Ash said, to be able to discern how much do I really need to be pouring into this, or what am I looking for in somebody else that I really need to be looking to you for? Like, is there something I'm not trusting you with that I'm going to these friends for, and maybe causing harm because of what I'm not trusting you for? Like, that just popped in my head. That's actually okay. So like, what if you are the one that is causing the harm because of an area where you're not trusting God in? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if it's not the friend?
Me.
That,
Yeah.
what if it's not the friend that's the issue, but what if it's really you, and it's an area that you're clinging to somebody else for that you really should be clinging to God for? Like,
exactly. Oh yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna have to take that to the journal tonight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
Wow.
We'll flip the script there. Okay.
I mean, that just came into my brain. I was like, whoa, like, wait a minute. Because honestly, reading the chapter, I was in a position that I was ready to say, okay, well, I'm the friend that has the right relationship with God, and I'm a good friend. But then it's like, oh, God checked me just now, because he said, well, what if it's you though? Like, what if you actually have great friends that I've sent to you to be a blessing? But what if you're the one that's pushing them away? Or what if you're the one that's holding them so tightly that they can't do what I sent them to you to do?
Or holding them loosely. You got to think about it from the opposite perspective, because I know I sometimes feel like I hold my friends very loosely. I do, just because, like you say, like it kind of just can tie back to that trust. Like I trust issues in general, of where you have opened up to people and it's done what it's done in your life. But like, Ashley said as well, where it's like, season, reason, lesson. So it's just like, granted, whatever category that fell into, I feel you can also hold your friends very loosely and it still be as harmful as if you're holding them too closely. Because I could be needing something from you that I'm not getting, because I'm holding you out, on the string, versus, and you're trying to climb to me to give me what I need, but you can't, because I'm not allowing that, because I don't, like you say, trust God. So yeah, that was good.
That reminds me of what Tab said about boundaries too, because talking about those extremes, it's the boundaries that keep the balance, right? For that expectation in friendship. Like,
and friendship
get so deep in first 5
so
minutes.
many different things. Like
5 minutes in.
So many different things to people. To some people, friendship is very loose. To some people, friendship is you got to be together all day, every day, talk every day. So it's also knowing your friends, knowing those relationships too.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, that's good too. You got to know your friend. Oh, yeah, that's good too.
Know yourself and know your
friend.
Yeah,
know yourself, know your friend. Yeah, that's
true. And communicate those things that you find.
Yeah.
like, because I know for me, which just kind of goes into the next thing she said was be careful with your expectations. And
Mm,
like, I think for me, a lot of times I've set these expectations, but they stay unspoken, right?
yeah.
And I don't, because I've never seen the example of how to, be vulnerable and to communicate, hey, this is kind of what I want from this friendship. Like, just like when you get in a relationship, now we quick to
Yeah.
say, look, I'm ready to
Do
get
it.
married. I want this. I want this.
Yes.
But when it's one of our girlfriends, it's like, oh, I'm so happy to have you, but I got some needs. Like, this
Yeah.
is I got some standards for friendship. It's like it's hard to have those type of conversations because I just never have seen that. So I
Mhm.
think something that could be dangerous or is normally dangerous is those unspoken expectations, like when we're not able to communicate, with our friends what it is that we need or expect from that friendship.
Right.
Mm. True.
What I guess kind of took from it, I guess, and just looking back on it, I just felt like I don't know. I don't want to keep jumping ahead, but sorry, this chapter I took away it says the Jesus with skin on, so it's just like friends, essentially friends share our humanity and remind us our love for God. So it kind of just goes back to the previous section, kind of trying to transition to the next section of being careful with the truth, just because I feel like just like you were saying, like exposing those expectations and exposing those things that you want from friends. Like, see, I've done it before, but this was within a friendship that was already it had some tenure. So it was a little easier to have a conversation of, hey, like, we're not where we used to be. Either we're going to go back to what we used to be, or we're going to like let us be where we are now and then just move forward. So like I've had the conversation, but I have not had a conversation, I guess, with like a beginning friendship. Like, so
Mhm.
I wouldn't know how that looked either, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah. Have you two have had either of the situations where you had to either address in a tenured friendship, or a kind of do you think about addressing things when the friendship kind of starts out? Or I guess like kind of walk us through your mental process of how you would, I guess, either give the expectation or have already given them to some of your friends.
I mean, I know for me personally, I think I just try to address things as they reveal themselves. I've never really been, it's interesting that the idea of setting expectations when things begin, for me, I don't have a lot of friendships that have a lot of tenure to them, only because I moved around a lot. I was always the new girl. I was always making friends again. And so it always began, it was always that roller coaster for me, where I think that's caused me to hold my friends really loosely, like you mentioned, because for me, I'm so used to starting over. It's like, why get invested and then have to go? And social media makes that a little bit easier, but back when we were growing up, it wasn't what it is now. So, you didn't see that person, they were gone, and then you saw them years later. But I know for me, I just try to address things as it happens and say, hey, when you said this, it made me feel this way, and just try to give the person the opportunity at that point to say, oh, I didn't think about that. Wow. Or allow them the room to maybe modify the expectation, or to come to a middle ground where we can say, hey, you know what? I know you're requiring a lot from me. And that was my instance. I was enrolled in my master's program, and I finished last semester. But for those 2 years, thank you. For those 2 years, I was full-time student. And my first semester was 4 classes with a full-time job. And so for me, a lot of things had to fall to the wayside in regards to constantly keeping up with people, or what are you doing? What are you doing? So for me, that had to take a back seat. And so, I had to communicate at that point, hey, and some people took it personal. They chose to take it personal. But I think all you can do is just try to be honest. Hopefully you're in a friendship where you can be honest,
Right.
and you feel comfortable expressing yourself. And so I just try to do it that way.
I agree. I feel like what you said, Ange, about unspoken expectations, I think that's super powerful, because I feel like a lot of times people do treat relationships with so much more care than they treat their friendships. And I feel like friendships are a relationship. So one of my friends, actually, she said that, her relationship with her boyfriend, that's just another relationship out of all her relationships. And I feel like that was a really good point, because you have relationships with all of your friends. I feel like for my tenured friendships, you kind of have to, like you said, TK, address how your friendship has changed. So like we're probably never going to be friends how we used to be because we're not the same people that we used to be. So kind of addressing how we can make our friendship work where we are now, like meet each other where we are now. And I've had that conversation with tenured friends. I've had that conversation with newer friends where it was like, hey, we are not vibing how we used to vibe. Like, I don't know what we need to do, but it's just, it becomes a point where it's like, I don't want to be the only person reaching out to you. I don't want you to feel like I'm the only person reaching out to me. So where do we go from here? And I think that was a good point that you said about just having that room to be honest in your friendships. I think that's super important. To be able to be honest with your friends, because like you said, you would definitely do that to a new man or a new boo or a new whoever. You would let them know, okay, this is what I expect. And I feel like that same premise should follow in friendships. And I feel like that's why a lot of people don't have super strong friendships, because they don't put that care into them. They don't treat them like a relationship. They treat it, how as a friendship or whatever. So,
because friendship breakups hurt too now.
Okay.
Like friendship breakups, they up there.
And not even that, but like when you think about how y'all used to be compared to how y'all are now, it's like
you feel
that's another heartbreak. So
yeah.
And it's also not getting stuck. Like, okay, so for me, I had this issue I dealt with last year as far as not being stuck with where we used to be. So like, and embracing where we are now, because I had like most of my friends have been around for a long, I mean, like a decade plus, which is really interesting. But what happened in that dynamic was like, well, wait a minute, y'all been around for a long time, but I've also had friends who were around for a long time, but I cut it off because it wasn't substance. But I'm like, y'all been around and it's substance. Is this too good to be true? But then like, is there really substance? So like, I just was questioning a lot of like the real meat of these friendships. And I found myself realizing that a lot of what I was holding on to is, well, back in the day, like we went through all this stuff together and we made you remember we did this, and this, but it's like, but where I am right now.
Yeah.
Like, is there solid, found, can I call you today and, you be supportive of what I'm doing right now, or be able to speak life into me if I needed it, or, you know what I'm saying, pour back into me something that maybe I pour back into you. Like, would that be possible right now? Maybe not, so like taking the time to actually embrace also where you are and realize that, like both, like everybody actually said, like relationships are supposed to change because people change. And so you have to embrace where you are now and that things have changed, but you also can't stay in what it used to be like, because it's not beneficial to anybody.
But think about it, I guess, in a different way. Just, I guess, having some food for thought, where it's like, when we were talking about the expectations, so it's like just thinking about it in a way of us changing. Like, so just say us four, or we're friends or whatever, but I'm changing, Angie's changing, let's say Ashley's changing, but Tab, you're just kind of, sorry, just for this example, you're just where you are. But it's like, can we expect her to kind of come along with us still, even though this is just how my box looks, so I'm sorry. But just even though we are changing, like, can we, like, is there, I guess essentially I'm trying to say, like, can you set an expectation for a friend that
they don't have that expectation?
Yeah, like that doesn't have an expectation of being around long term, if that makes sense. Because if our friends are here for reasons, seasons, lessons, so it's like, can you have that same, I don't want to call it negative expectation, but can you also have the expectation of them being short term? It's just a food for thought question, because I feel like we expect our friends to always go through our seasons with us, but we don't ever expect them to just be what they are in the moment for us, and just seeing kind of where it goes, versus like, this needs to be my ride or die or whatever, I don't know.
Like, I constantly had that battle, and like during college, just I felt like, my friends around me weren't necessarily being the friends that I needed them to be for me. And another one of my friends said, you have a friend for, what did she say? A friend, you can't expect everybody to be like your substance friends. Like, you can have friends that you just party with. You can have friends that you just chit chat with, like you just, kick it with. You can have friends that you go to church with. You can have friends that you go outdoorsy things with. But all of those friends aren't necessarily going to be like your substance friends, your friends that are going to pour life into you. Right. And I think what you were saying, TK, that's important to realize that a friend isn't necessarily going to be what you want them to be for you. They're being what they are, so you can't have that expectation that, this is going to be forever if that's simply not what the relationship is giving. Exactly. So,
yeah, that's good summation.
Say that last part one more time about a friend is not going to be who you want them to be. They just going to be who they are, what they are.
Mm-hmm. What they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Was that a gym?
It is a gym.
That's good.
It is.
Keep that on the t-shirt.
Right. As we're going, it's like, wow, you might have to send some text after this.
Yeah.
But that's good though. So it sparks action. That's good. But yes, you definitely summed that up nice and well. Because I definitely agree. Like you say, people are who they are. We are who we are. Like, yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I just had to write that out real quick. So I need to remember that. Ooh, that was good.
I'm crying.
Wow. Like,
yes,
ooh, that's a lie.
You cannot expect them to do
that.
It's so good. And that's, to me, so this morning I was thinking about like selfishness, right? And like how a lot of things I think about are just about me. Like it's not my instinct to think about what other people have going on in a moment. I'm thinking about, how does this stuff benefit me? And I know that's not, of course it's not the right way it's supposed to be, but it's like the human in us is we think about me, I first. And so I think that part of humility that God calls us to is accepting people as they are where they are. Like, and really, because what I love about that statement is like, I have to know who you are to be able to know that you can't be, maybe what I'm expecting you to be. I need to do my work to get understanding about who are you really and what are your gifts? What are you good at? What are you passionate about? Who are you at the core? And then how does that work together here? Even like when we talk about how, I think at the end of the chapter, I'm skipping all through this chapter, but at the end of the chapter, she talks about how God can send friends out the blue. Like I know for me, some of my best friends have been like the most unexpected connections and relationships, but they really were answered prayers. Like I was praying for this type of friend, but the way they showed up, I didn't expect it. And so in thinking about this humility piece and getting to know who your friends are, it's like when you consider the fact that God sent these people to you, even whether it is for a season, lifetime lesson, why aren't we making the effort to try to connect? Like, why did God send you here? What is it that, God sent you here to do for me? Like, or at least for me, I don't really take a lot of time to consider like, wow, you might be an answered prayer. Like, how so? How can I see you as a blessing from God versus just, just a fun addition to my life, just an extra person with me.
I think a part that she had in the chapter, I think it was like a quote from like somebody, but it was like it's like that quote, to be a friend, you have to be a friend or something. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it wrong, but that kind of goes along with what you're saying of, them being, what can they provide for your life? But it can kind of go the other way as well. It's like, what are you kind of providing to nourish them as well? Because they could be feeling what they're feeling to not give you what you need. I don't know. It's like a circle. I don't know. It's like a circle of stuff. But yeah, I feel like, that can kind of just touch on my next point so we can kind of get through our points, guys. But the next one is forgive offenses. So I know I am offended. I don't know. I'm just an offended person. You could say the shoes look ugly, and I'm like, they do. Like, I don't know why. I take everything so personally, and it's not even worth it. But you have to kind of just, I guess, give your friends grace. Like that's kind of what she was talking about in the chapter, or in this part of the chapter, where it's like, kind of just got to give your friends grace, because people are going to offend people because you don't even know what's going on in their lives. They don't know what's going on in your life. And if you don't have those conversations, like you say, Ange, of where I can even get to know you, to know where you are in my life, we're going to kind of still be in the same spot of, I'm going to think whatever you're doing is intentional. And it may or may not be. But it's to know that Jesus, already paid for all of that. So therefore, if they're forgiven, we should forgive them too. Okay. But yeah, so I think that's something that we can work on, and all the viewers and you both can work on, just knowing that offenses need to be forgiven, very quickly, because they are not meant to be, I guess, dwelled on just for life in general, since they are, I'm not going to say purposeless, because they serve its purpose, but I feel like when you look at them from a different perspective of knowing just the worldly things that they go through and the spiritual things that they're going through, you will give them a little bit more grace. Yes. I feel like it's like a lot of deep breaths. I think in the chapter, she actually had a deep breath with us as well. It was a part
of like every chapter, because sis be just going deep. I was like, ma'am,
I need a break.
We need a break.
I was actually reading a devotional that spoke to that. It was speaking about mercy and how God shows us mercy on a daily basis in everything that we do. And who are we not to show that mercy to, our friends, our people we care about.
Definitely.
Right.
Oh, I need a couple more deep breaths. You just feel like it's just like,
oh yeah. Oh. The next lesson that she learned was about like unholy ties with people. So what she wrote was to discern and break unholy ties. And so what I liked is that y'all like, oh yeah, let's talk about it. But I know when we talk about like, let's say romantic relationships, we talk about being equally yoked, right? Don't be unequally yoked in a relationship. But that applies to friendships as well. Just like Tab said, relationships are relationships, whether it's a friend, romantic or casual, whatever, family, it's all relationships. So you shouldn't be unequally yoked. And so something she says is like a quote that she said was interesting, and then I want us to talk about this topic overall. But she says that unholy ties, or these being unequally yoked, forms a kind of spiritual walkway over which another person's warfare travels to you. What they're dealing with comes to you if God's not involved. Well, that part was my part. What they're dealing with comes to you if you're not involved with God. So if you are allowing an unholy tie to exist in a friendship, those things that they might be struggling with, they will find their way into what you have going on. You might not know where the word came from, but it's a sign that it's something that needs to be broken off in this relationship. So I want to hear your thoughts about, have you experienced, anything like that where it's been an unholy tie, or if somebody's stuff started rubbing off on you?
Y'all, this is for me. This is for me. I had it was actually really recently. I had shared a post on Facebook, y'all. And I'm gonna mess up the paraphrasing, but it basically said, discernment allows you to recognize who's a Peter and who's a Judas. Peter had a bad day, Judas had a bad heart. Peter, it said something like, Peter, you restore, Judas, you release. And so, like, for me, like, it really had me thinking, like, we think that we know people sometimes, and life shows you sometimes that you really don't. You don't really know people. I've had to break off friendships, and they hurt. They hurt like anything else does. Yeah. And I don't think we talk about that nearly enough. I think that, like, our generation, our culture has been so infatuated with romance and love and find your soulmate and find your man, find your girl, all of that. And I feel like the conversation is so dominated by those voices, and they're important. But I feel like there's not nearly as much effort put into teaching people how to discern friendships and how to discern when enough is enough. Forgiveness is huge. Mercy is huge. Grace is huge. But even in the Bible, God says, I'll turn you over to your mind if you don't listen enough. If you call out, wisdom's calling and you don't answer, and wisdom gonna laugh when your turn come up. Wisdom gonna laugh, because it's like, it's not enough just to rely on that. We have to use our common sense too to say, hey, you know, I'm here to help you shoulder your burdens, but I'm the only one shouldering some burdens, and these burdens are a lot. And I think we need to talk about that part of it too.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Because, you know, I think grace and mercy is great, but I think when the underlying assumption under grace and mercy is that people are repentant and wanting to do more. That's even what God asks of us. He says, you know, he says, like, turn from your wicked ways. Like, ask for repentance, turn from your, you can't just be up in the same thing. You can't come back. You know, I let you back in and you're gonna come back with the same energy. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes in friendships, they go toxic, they go rancid, they go bad because things go unchecked. Conversations are not had, and people are not repentant. People are okay with, this is me. I'm a Aries, and you know Aries don't listen. There are all sorts of excuses that we allow to be excuses. You know what I mean? And trauma needs to be healed for that to be healthy. You know, we got to let go of all these crutches and just let it be what it is. We need to learn how to let go of these things. When things go toxic, they run their course. We have to let them go. And we're so used to keeping people around for the sake of keeping people around. Oh, because we go way back. Oh, we used to do this together. We're not understanding that relationship is toxic now. Yeah. And we have to allow it to be what it is. And that part of the conversation needs to happen. Like when we're speaking to one another, when people are speaking to young girls and young boys about friends, and this person's not your friend, they're like talking bad about you. Mm-hmm. We need to equip them too with the tools to say, hey, you know, in love, I can't do this anymore. I wish you well. It doesn't have to be dirt on Facebook and beep, beep, and beep, beep, and audio. It doesn't have to be dirty. Mm-hmm. But just to say, this is service time. I'm grateful. And you still have mercy, forgive for you, because forgiveness is for you. Right. But you allow that person to move in the next phase of their life where God can be God. And they can meet God for themselves. And we're not in the way. So for me, sometimes you stay in those friendships, you think you can save them. Well, I got Jesus. We can't save people. God has the transformative power. We don't have the transformative power.
Yeah, we can lead.
We can lead. Yeah. We can pray. Yeah. We can talk. But change has to come from within. And when people are not repentant in our friendships, we have to allow them to be who they are without us.
Now that's right there. It ain't enough chats to quote.
Right? Like we just got to play.
Baby.
I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
No, you had something to say with that one. Okay, you had something to say.
Okay. Like it was so many gems in there.
That was for me, y'all.
It was for you.
What else is there to say? That was it. Like,
yeah, you wrapped it up. You got to hold on it and everything. Right. Like, right.
That's it.
I mean, wow. Everybody just inhale, exhale real quick.
No, but that was good. Like that. Wow.
Like I'm not even about to try to unpack it because we'll be here an hour. But like that was good. Like so many. When I go back and rewatch this, like the notes are gonna be deep because there's so much of that not only applies to friendship but just to life in general and how we approach God for things too. Are you repenting about it, or are you about to come back and be doing the same thing you was doing? And expect God to continue to do the same stuff for you.
Right.
You ain't even repenting about it. Okay. But, so that leads me to the next point, talking about treasuring the gift of friendship, treasuring.
Good stuff.
Lord. My heart beating off fast.
Mine got me excited. You were talking, I was just like, it's
I am excited, right? You know, they be saying my spirit is stirred.
Okay.
Woo! But man, the last tip or lesson that she learned was to treasure the gift of friendship. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I told you I was skipping around, but she said that friends are gifts to us straight from the heart of God, because God knows what we need when we need it. And I think something I talked about earlier was that there were friends who popped up out the blue that I wasn't expecting, but they were answered prayers and I didn't realize it. until I look back after the fact. But you know, God is able to, because He knows us so intimately, He can send us what we need, and it might look different than what we expected. Um, and so it's like kind of, I don't know how to word it. The way she gave her examples was kind of going through just appreciating the value and the differences in her friendships. And I think we mentioned this earlier, is how I think Tab was saying that you got a friend you go hiking with and you enjoy hiking with your friend. You got a friend you love doing road trips with, and that's, you know, you love that about your friend. Like, you know, and you just find those things to appreciate about them, and that's what makes that friendship so valuable. So I'm glad that she ended that on that, as far as treasuring, because I feel like the other lessons were like kind of, you got to go through some things to, yeah, like you got to go through some
you,
things
you got to go through it. You know, you got to go.
right.
We
It's the
know.
reality of friendships.
Yeah.
You, even with all the things you go through, even with, you know, discovering and discerning unholy ties, even with having to forgive after being offended,
Yes.
even after having to share some truths, whether it's hard, you know, some
Yep.
hard conversations need to be had, and addressing your expectations, whether you're the one who's causing the issue by not communicating where the other person is. All those things, those experiences, if that friendship lasts, help you to treasure the
Mhm.
gift of friendship, even if the friendship doesn't last, shoot, because those are still lessons learned, right? When somebody leaves our life and we're able to look back and be like, you know, well, you know, I can still treasure that because I learned a lesson from this. It's never a
Yeah.
loss, it's always a lesson.
Right.
So, you know, sure, we made some good memories. This is where it, you know, messed up, you know, but hey, I learned a lesson here for what I can do better with the next person that God sends me, you know, to be able to be friends with. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want to ask this question of like, what are some valuable lessons that you've learned from friendship over the years? I think we're at a really good age right now where we've been through, like, we
Yeah.
done been through a good number of friendships and learned a lot of different lessons. So, like, if you could just think about, like, what are some of the valuable takeaways you've gotten from some of your friendships? And take your time. I need to think myself on this. It's just popped up.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a takeaway, but I guess to kind of just continue the conversation. Sorry. To continue the conversation, I had a situation when I was in Clemson, and I had some friends where I exposed to them. I think it was kind of like what you were saying, Ashley, but I exposed to them that it was like finals week. I was going through it. I was just stressing out. You know, it was a lot going on. But I had texted them, and I was just like, "Hey guys, you know, excuse me, I'm about to go like MIA for a little bit. You know, get my life together, blah blah blah." But they took it offensively and was like, "Oh, you don't want to hang out with us no more?" Like, because I was in a relationship at the time too, so they were just like, you know, petty beat beat blah, and then so you know, it was just like, I guess a takeaway. I guess I could see looking back on it now. That was a friendship that led me to do uh, promiscuous things. So it was like one of those things where I feel like God definitely was giving me my exit. I can just
Mhm.
put it that way. I don't want to, you know, yeah. So that's a takeaway that I could get from that relationship, because it's like, you know, you think that you can like expose your, I'm not gonna say your struggles, but you know, you can expose your challenges to your friends sometimes, and they may or may not be in the place to accept that from you because they're not ready to, you know, from whatever they got going on their end, to accept your absence. But those in particular friends needed to know that I was not going to be around, you know. So shout out to God back then for, you know, holding my ground. But yeah, so that's probably my friend takeaway thing. Yeah.
No, I feel like I have a lot of tenured friendships. So friendships from elementary school, middle school, high school. And I feel like one thing that I've learned and that I've taken away from that is to be able to kind of flow through different, you know, life journeys with my friends. So not expecting us to, you know, be on the same wave at all times, but always be able to realign ourselves. Like always be able to reel it back into whatever we needed to be at that moment. I've been blessed to not have, or maybe I'm just blocking it out because it's so toxic. Not have a lot of situations where it was like me and this friend like literally could not be, like, you know, I've never really had a friendship rip apart. Most of my friendship issues have been, we're just not equally yoked at this moment in our life. Like, we're just not equally yoked right now. I have a takeaway from today from our conversation about a friendship situation that I'm going through now, where it's just like what you said, like that pathway where your burdens and your unholiness is coming over to me, and I'm feeling ways I've never felt before, you know? And I feel like that's a takeaway in itself, like finally clicking, like that's what that is. That's not a healthy friendship. That's just a pathway of just mess back and forth and just holding on to it because, you know, of history and because such good friends and all that stuff. But like you said, just realizing, you know, having mercy is not the same as being dumb. And God, when God sends you a sign, He sends you that sign.
Yeah.
He might send you one more sign. Okay? If you don't get it that time, maybe you're on your own. So I feel like that's another takeaway from friendships, is definitely knowing, you know, when it's time to, when enough is enough. Like, you've served your purpose. You gave me great memories and great, you know, experiences in life, but being, you know, putting yourself first, being able to say, hey, I love me more than I love this mess. So, you know,
the mess.
Yeah.
And she put I'm sorry, Ash. She put a prayer in that section that talked about the unholy ties. I'm gonna have Takia send that to you because it was literally breaking it. Okay, she talked about soul ties as well in that same chapter, and how we like to talk about it in regards to sex and relationships, but it's also in any relationship, you know, because even David and Jonathan were described as having soul tie, and they were best friends. And so it's a tough thing to break them things off. Like, there's some things that can only be, you know, broken off of fasting and prayer. Jesus. And so she put a prayer in there, and we'll make sure you get that. But I'm glad that touched you in this specific situation right now. That's so good.
Very much so. Right on time.
So go ahead, Ash. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was over here really thinking, because, you know, I be thinking.
You got the gems.
Okay.
You know, I guess one big takeaway for me is not everybody has the heart that you have. Like, and it's just interesting, you know, because, you know, we're so multifaceted. You know, it's like, you know, there's a churchy, there's a spiritual side to you. There's like a romantic side. You know, there's like a, you know, you when you're comfortable, you and your, you know, we're all just so complex, really. And I think sometimes when it comes to friendships, they get complex too. But if you go into things without knowing someone, like Angie said, you really need to know people and give yourself room to know people, not just throw a best friend label on someone because y'all went to a party together and it's not that, you know, because I feel like people throw terms around and they don't mean anything. But when it really comes down to it, the friendships that are going to last are people who have the heart like you. And I think that only really happens when you're rooted in the same things and when you're living it out. Like, particularly, like, you know, in a Christ walk, you know, I cuss a little bit, you know, that's my stronghold or whatever. I'm working on it. But, like, you know, when it really comes down to it, you want to find people who are living the way they say they want to live. Like, really, when it comes down to it, like, you know, it doesn't really mean much to say, you know, I'm a Christian and I'm this. But when it comes down to it in your friendship, you ain't acting like one. Yeah. So I think that you need to find people who are aligned in word and in action with the direction that you're going. And then that allows you to understand too, okay, this is an acquaintance, someone who I'm casual with, and this is someone who I go to when I need restoration. Like, this is the person, this is my friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think that sometimes we get heartbroken, you know, we extend grace too often, and we get taken advantage of for it because we're wanting to extend grace because we're Christians, and people take that and manipulate it and take advantage of it. I think you just really have to use wisdom and really ask God for wisdom and trust God for wisdom, you know, because like the Bible says, if you lean on your own understanding, it's not gonna work. You know, you think, girl, I got some twists, and you got some twists, and I got some girl, and we friends, and it's cool, you know. And it can be that simple sometimes, just to create a close relationship with someone, just a similarity, or we like the same type of music or whatever. But when it really boils down to it, is this person in the direction that I'm headed, in the direction I'm going? Yeah. You know, and even the Bible say, like, you got to agree to walk together. How can y'all walk together if y'all don't agree? Like, how can we get to the place where we want to be as friends if we don't agree? If our morality is totally different, this friendship is only going to go to a certain level. If you have aspirations that, you know, break my boundaries, or the way you speak to me breaks my, this is only going to go so far, you know. So you have to really be honest about, you know, how you feel, use discernment, use wisdom, trust God above all else to guide, you know, to let you know the degree of prominence that this person's going to have in your life. Is this someone to be casual, or is this someone to really share your secrets with? Because you shouldn't tell your secrets to everybody. You shouldn't tell your dreams to everybody. You shouldn't tell these things to people, because people will take it and use it against you if you're not careful. But the only way that you can know that is if you trust God. So I think sometimes going into friendships, expecting people to operate the way you operate, it can really hurt you. So you have to allow people to be who they are, recognize that, don't sugarcoat it. If someone's a manipulator, they're a manipulator. You know, if someone likes to gossip, they like to gossip, you know, call it for what it is, and then allow that discernment to guide, you know, how you interact with them. But I've been in situations where I extended mercy and I wasn't giving mercy back, you know, or I extend grace and I wasn't extending grace back. And I'm just wondering, like, where, but I'm doing this for you. Why am I not getting this back? And it's because I projected and I thought that person was going to behave like I would. And instead of making it pretty, you know, to remain friends, I had to see the reality for what it is and make the tough call if it calls for it to be over. But yeah, you just have to allow people to reveal themselves, keep your eyes open, trust God, and then make your decisions, you know?
Every time I just gotta breathe. That is so good. Oh. Mm.
And what came to my head was, if you want to know a tree, check its fruit.
Mm-hmm.
You said check the fruit or the fruit?
Check its fruit. If you want to know what type of tree it is, check the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
I heard root. I heard root the first time.
I'm sorry, it was the country. Fruit. The fruit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that came when Ash was talking. It's like, if you want to know, I gotta look up and see where that is in the Bible. But yeah, I remember hearing that and being like, wow, like that's such a great way to check relationships and check who people are. What is it that you're producing? Are you okay? If we're believing that we're equally yoked, you know, we're believers, we're walking this walk together. All right, then that means you have Holy Spirit, which means you have the fruits of the Spirit. Are you producing joy?
Yeah.
Patience, what's it called? Long bearance, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control.
Self-control, yes.
Yeah. Like, are you producing those things? Are you pointing me towards those things?
Yeah.
And things that we're doing? Check the fruit. Like, if it's, I mean, it's just like, I mean, I'm glad you said, Ash, you know, how can you like walk if you don't agree? How does that work? It don't. You'll be walking in different directions. And the thing I liked about the word yoke, I learned, I think a couple years ago, was like a yoke is what used to tie the like the cattle together, and so they would be working on a field and be yoked. It would literally be this big, like, I guess, steel or heavy metal thing that held two animals together, and they would have to walk at the same pace. Like, they needed to be going at the same pace to get the work done at the same time, speed, and everything like that. And so if you had a weak animal and a strong animal, you're gonna have one animal that's carrying all the weight, that's doing all the work, while one just slows it down. So you have to have two people who are strengthening each other, just like as iron sharpens iron. A dull knife cannot sharpen a sharp. You know what I'm saying? Like, you both have to be sharp to be able to sharpen one another. That's what I'm trying to say. You both have to be sharp. You can't be dull. So it's all these checkpoints that the Bible kind of gives us to be able to check our relationships. I think I think it's important. Maybe it's something I'll work on. Is like collecting those check markers, like those points that the Bible says, like, hey, uh, don't was like bad company ruins good character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you know back in the day you was innocent and you was good and you didn't think these way, and now you're doing these things you said you would never do, what was the change there? It's the people you've been
Right.
around, you
Yep.
know. So maybe that's something I'll work on, is like collecting some biblical points of like what we could look for in relationships in general, not even just friendships, because
Yeah.
like that said, relationships are relationships.
Mm.
But my takeaway, which is a recent learn, I realized that I was holding my friendships very loosely. And I mean that I did not trust that my friends really knew me, like really knew me. I just always went through this mindset of like nobody really knows the real me, because there's so
Yeah.
much that I keep secret from people, and there's so much that nobody, my parents don't even know this about me. No, there's no one person that knows everything about me, which I mean there shouldn't
That's true.
really be, but it's like I wouldn't let people in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other thing about that is that your actions speak a lot for you, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that a lot of my friends have been around me so long that they've been able to see my patterns. They've been able to see the way I think, through the way I talk, through the way I act, through the way I live, right?
Yeah.
And even if in my head I didn't think that they knew me that well, when situations come up where I needed them, or even if I didn't know I needed them, they show up and they able to speak life into me. And I'm like, where did it, girl? Like I know for me. So with Takia, we've been friends for like what, a decade now.
Ever. Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's
It
like
feels like forever. I feel like I know kids since like elementary, but we just met in high school, and it was like we talked about these random friendships. It's like it just, the way it happened was so crazy, unexpected. But something I've learned about the kid is that her discernment is A1. Like her, where I lack in discernment, that girl is so discerning, and like it's been so many situations where I think, I'm so wise, I'm so smart, and I do all this stuff right. All the pride in me, honestly, thinking that I got everything handled. And so I'll go through these situations, tell Takia about it while I'm in it. And Takia would give me that like,
is that
she
Like, but like, really
is
though?
that
like Takia would give me that like, I mean, she'll tell me her opinion about it. Well, I really don't feel, this way about
you
it.
do what you do,
Yeah, she'll tell me like, and you grown, do what you gonna do, but this is how I feel about it. And I will always just kind of be like, okay, well, she don't really know me. Like, we've been around each other for a long time, but she don't really know like the thoughts and like everything. And then the situation will go wrong. And then it would be like exactly what she said will be correct. And I'll be like, yeah, girl, so this happened. And she'll be like,
but I'm still here, because I understand.
yeah, like I love, I mean, that honestly shows the grace you have for me, because it could have been so easy for you, because I know I've done it many times. And it would have been easy for you to be like, Angie don't never listen to nothing I say. You think you know everything, then go do what you're gonna do, and you be stuck in these situations. I don't want to hear no more about your situation.
Yeah.
But every time you still are willing to listen and still willing to be there for me. So I appreciate you for that. I'm tearing up. I need to stop.
Don't
But
like not
that's like, oh my God, because I never thought about it like that. It's like
I was
the
like,
pride
I don't think I knew.
oh,
I didn't know this. I knew. It's like, and that's crazy that you're saying it, because like I know you know that about me, but to hear you say it, it's like, yeah. So
yes, like girl, and the thing, I mean, God has given us all these spiritual gifts, right? We
Yeah.
don't all have the same gifts. So you are strong, and that's why I know that's got to be why God sent you and why we've stuck around this long. You know what I'm saying? Because he knew that at this appointed time, I would need somebody who is strong in discernment to be
Yeah.
able to sharpen me up in the areas that I'm getting dull in. So I
yeah,
appreciate that about you. And so my takeaway is just to really trust that
yeah,
God has sent people in my life for a reason,
exactly.
whether I can see it clearly or not in the moment. Is
Yeah.
trusting that they're there for a reason, and that they're sent by God. Because see, the enemy's not going to send you good friends. He's not,
Yeah.
he doesn't want unity, right? He doesn't want us to grow or for us to be sharpened. So he's not going to send anybody that's going to point you to Jesus.
That's good.
Um, like he ain't,
I mean,
he
but
wants
that's
us to
true.
be,
Yeah.
separate. He wants us to be divided. So he's not, now he'll send you the friends that might, tear you down and, get you involved in the things that are not the unholy ties.
The unholy tie.
The unholiness. But God is gonna send you people in seasons that are strengthened in an area that you might need it. And it kind of takes us to be able to sit back and have a moment of humility, and be able to see like, dang, I didn't even realize I was so weak in this area. And what you said, like that helped me get through this, or I learned this from you, or even when you stopped to pray for me, I needed that. Like whatever it is, like just realizing that God knows what he's doing, and he knows what you need. And he knows who has those gifts, and he will send them to you at the right time.
Yeah.
Even if the right time doesn't look like the right time. Yeah, because it's his time. So it might not look like the right time for you. Exactly. So like I was saying, me and Takia known each other for 10 years. I felt like, for a long time, it was like, I feel like the past few years of our relationship have been the most deep of our relationship. Like we've gone to a deeper level of getting to know one another and being able to pour into one another, because back then when we were different, we were cool with smoking every once in a while, drinking, turning up, going. And I wasn't the club type, but I would try to go when Takia invited me. I'm okay, I'm gonna try. But like we were what we needed in those moments. But now it's like I can see the God touch in it. Like now I can see
all of the phases, like literally.
Yeah, now I can see this is it. Like this is the moment. Why we were connected 10 years ago. This is why.
Right.
This book club, like this is why, because we're going deeper now. So his timing, man, it's perfect. And I've learned to never question that. Even in the timing of friend breakups, I never question it. It hurts, yes, and we got to feel the feels and go, and we still ask God, why you do that? And sometimes he don't answer. Sometimes he say,
or sometimes you're listening.
Yeah. Sometimes all he say it was my timing.
Yeah.
You have to just trust the timing. And so yeah, I want to end it off there. Before I be out here like,
I was like, please.
This conversation was so good. I cannot wait for this to be shared with people, because people need to hear this.
Yes, people.
Everybody. Yo, everybody dropped something that I know I needed to hear.
We got a whole chat box if you want Angie to put it in the description box for you.
Listen carefully, because gems will be dropped.
Okay.
Hold on to your edges, okay?
That's crazy. The timing, like literally God's timing, like literally God's timing.
Yeah.
For me personally, literally God's timing.
That's so good. That's so good. Because I think when I texted Tab, I didn't even really give her. I just told you it was like it's gonna be about friendships. I didn't really give you much background, because at the time I really didn't have much background. Yeah. I'm just be honest. But I'm so appreciative for both of you for joining our conversation today. I know I appreciated it. I know Angie, you appreciate it too. Oh, I'm just so grateful.
Most definitely.
It was great.
I feel very full.
Oh.
Yeah.
This again, certainly.
Yes, definitely.
Most definitely. I'm excited. Like, honestly, every time we have a panel and invite people to come on and talk with us, it makes me so excited for what God's going to do with this platform, because we kind of have kept our hands open on it. Like, God, whatever you want to do, the panels wasn't something that we originally talked about. And then these chapters would come up, and it's like, we got to include some people. Right. And then when we include people, I mean, everybody's experiences and everybody's wisdom, just comes out, and it's like, yo, somebody needed to hear that, and then being able to connect
it out, or someone needed to feel it, or like, that's why I'm just so grateful, because y'all didn't have to give or talk to us how you are talking to us. You didn't have to expose us, expose this part of, your life to us and to, viewers essentially. So I am so appreciative.
Most definitely. Thank you for being vulnerable.
Yes.
And being honest.
Yes.
Yeah. And even sharing your testimonies, right? Because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, right? So we already got the blood of the lamb because Jesus died a long, long time ago for us. So now we overcome it because we got to talk about the things we've been through. That's the only way we're going to overcome. And then you're helping somebody else overcome because they know they're not alone. Because you just told them something they were just going through. Just like Tab said, that was for her. Like when we share for one another, like we're helping other people heal and we're healing in the process. And I love that. And I'm glad we could do that together because we're all leaving here stronger because of this conversation. So again, I'm just grateful for you. I pray God's blessing over you and all your friendships and relationships. I pray he would continue to give us all wisdom, heighten our discernment to be able to realize, what it is that we might need to cut, but also realize what's from him and be able to recognize the gifts that he's sending us through friends. I pray that he will help us to forgive as we are offended and will continue to be offended. I pray that he will help us be better communicators. So when it's time to share our expectations or share how we're feeling, that we can do that gracefully and with love, with pure intentions, so that our friendships can be healthy and help us grow. So again, I just thank you guys for being here. For everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe because obviously God says there's going to be more conversations and panels with our friends and with more people. And so comment if you got any gems from this conversation, drop them in the comments. There's probably not enough space in the comment section for the gems. But drop your gems, drop any lessons you've learned from your friendships because we want to know those things and share those as well. But other than that, thank y'all so much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Y'all have a wonderful night. We will catch up with y'all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.